That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on an incredibly busy Friday, March 22nd. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. We've got local stories. We've got national stories. And right now, a lot of attention being paid to an international development in Moscow. Now, we don't know a whole lot at this point, but I'm going to go through. I've been reading the BBC has got a breaking news element up where they update it every few moments with the very latest information. And what we know is that heavily armed gunmen have appeared at the Crocus City Hall, which was it's an entertainment venue, where the group Picnic, I don't know who that is, but apparently a musical group, were preparing to play. This is just to the northwest of Moscow in the town of Krasnogorsk. And there were 5 shooters inside the hall. It sounded a little like this. Now, big picture, they now believe that some 40 people are dead and 100 may be wounded, and the building is on fire and the roof has collapsed. Here's what we know. The embassy in the United States Embassy in Moscow 1 week ago issued a security, or 2 weeks ago, issued a security alert saying that they have reports that an extremist have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow to include concerts. And at the time, U.S. citizens in Moscow were advised to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. That was some 2 weeks ago. Who's behind it? It's too early to know, writes the BBC security correspondent. It is notable that 2 weeks ago, the U.S. warned about this possibly happening. Despite the delay, the similarity in the nature of the target suggests a link might be possible. The White House has quickly said there is no indication that Ukraine or any Ukrainians are involved in the attack, with the spokesperson saying they wanted to disabuse reporters of any connection. And by the way, Zelensky has said as well, this is not us. This is not Ukraine. Full statement from the Russia Security Service. All possible measures are being taken to provide assistance to those affected as a result of the terrorist attack at the Crocus City Hall. The special services are carrying out active search measures following the emergency there. And they say, and they confirm 40 dead, over 100 wounded. Fire has engulfed the roof and facade of the hall, and smoke and flames are visible across the skyline. A TASS state news agency correspondent says around a third of the building has been set afire. Other reports speak of explosions where the glass on the top 2 floors of the structure has been broken by the force of the blaze. Part of the roof to the theater is said to have collapsed. Some of those who tried to escape from the gunman are thought to have fled to the basement, others to the roof. Security guard has been contacted and gave this account. A security guard on duty at the central entrance to the hall has given a eyewitness account to Telegram channel Baza. They say they're not able to corroborate the account, but it does correspond with what we're seeing video-wise. He says he and 3 colleagues all survived the attack. When the shooting began, I was standing at the central entrance on the ground floor. They started shooting from outside, and the windows shattered. Next to the entrance, there were 3 other security guards, and they hid behind an advertising board, and those attackers walked past us about 30 feet away. They started shooting randomly at people on the ground floor and went toward either the concert hall or the Oceanarium, which is apparently there as well. When the shooting stopped, we went out through the central exit, and administrators were already helping the wounded. The BBC says that they've gotten a lot of video that has come in from people shooting on their cell phones inside the concert hall, and they've been trying to, verify the video and make sure they're not putting out bad video. But they say the video we verified begins with people starting to leave the hall after something appears to have gone wrong. Suddenly, gunshots ring out and people start screaming and running in panic. It's difficult at this point to know how many people were involved in the incident. But in one video, they can see a large number of people in the hall. Another video verified from inside the hall shows a close-up of what appears to be gunmen shooting indiscriminately. 4 gunmen seen in a third video shooting in the foyer. Several casualties are on the floor. We verified videos filmed from outside the concert hall, which appeared to show the building on fire with large plumes of smoke coming out. Still a developing story. There's a lot that we do not know, but what we do know is very concerning. And again, this is in Moscow, an attack on a concert hall. Very unusual, and again, something that may have been foretold by a security warning that went out from the U.S. Embassy to U.S. citizens inside Russia, warning them not to go to concerts because they had picked up talk of some kind of attack from an outside group against in a gathering where there would be a lot of people there. We're going to continue to monitor this and bring you the very latest on it. And again, who knows, what this is all about? Who knows what the motivation for these attacks are? But one way or the other, a tragic event in Moscow and a situation that one wonders, is there a security threat? Is this something to do with the concerns about what's going on in Ukraine? Does it have something to do with concerns about the elections that were just held there, where Putin was again reelected, and many people felt that the elections were unfair? so many different things that it could be. But right now, the real concern there is just trying to make sure that they take care of those who are seriously injured. We'll stay on top of that. Now, other international news, you may have heard today that Kate Middleton has announced that she has had abdominal surgery, which we knew, but also has gone on to explain that she has a form of cancer. This is an edited version of her official statement released by Buckingham Palace.
It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who've taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery.
Well, as you know, the Princess of Wales has been outside of the public eye since December 25th, and that was when Buckingham Palace, they later revealed that Middleton had been admitted to the hospital for a planned abdominal surgery on January 17th. Since then, she has only been spotted a handful of times, sparking speculation, a lot of uninformed speculation, actually, about what was going on and what was happening with the royal family. She was most recently spotted walking through the Windsor farm shop nearly 3 months after her last official royal outing. So on Mother's Day, there was a big kerfuffle about a photo that featured her with her children. And it became quickly evident to those who know about these such things that was an image that had been photoshopped. It only served to further fuel speculation about her health and her whereabouts. And she did apologize. She said, like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing. I want to express my apologies for any confusion the family photograph we shared caused yesterday. We don't have anything to add, the palace told Fox News Digital when asked for comments about the digital photos that had been altered. So sad news, of course, for the future king and his family, and sad news for Kate Middleton as she continues to struggle through this, going through chemotherapy. The statement, she looks pretty good in the video, I'll say, but again, she's going through chemotherapy, and it seemed like the hullabaloo around this whole thing had gotten to the point where it seemed that the royal family felt it was important, and you can't force somebody to go on camera and talk about their health issues unless she wants to do it. So getting her to the point where she was ready to make the announcement and share that took a little while, and everybody in America, we love our British counterparts, and there's a great deal of love for the royal family in America as well. So hope for the very best outcome there. So two huge international stories. We don't normally lead with international stories, but these seem to be pretty important. Again, recapping what we know from the situation in Moscow: 40 people dead, 100 people injured, a building on fire, an attack by a number of armed gunmen who seem to be indiscriminately shooting into the crowd, a very organized paramilitary operation, it would appear, that left 40 people dead and 100 people wounded, and real questions about what's going on within the stability of Russia, and all of the concerns about that. There have been denials from the Ukrainians and President Zelensky that they had anything to do with it, and the United States seems to be backing them up on that, and they're working the issue as well. We do know that a couple of weeks ago, the U.S. Embassy issued a statement which said that U.S. citizens inside Moscow, they have embassy personnel, etc., other people there, should avoid large gatherings like public concerts and public events because they'd picked up some kind of chatter about a potential terrorist attack against a large gathering in the Moscow area. So we'll continue to watch both of those stories. Now, as we move forward, we have local stories. The body of Riley Strain has been recovered out of the Cumberland River. We'll talk about that. There are big doings on the down in the swamp in Washington, D.C., and that they are passing a $1.2 trillion budget bill, but not without controversy. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has begun the process of saying, we need a new speaker. Here we go again on that. We're going to cover all of this stuff in greater detail, and we're going to bring you stories about what's going on the border. The White House is having to answer questions about that viral video yesterday at the border in El Paso, where it appeared that about 150, maybe 200 migrants overran the Texas National Guard. And guess what? They were later admitted into the United States after that. Who's at fault there? What should happen? You're not going to believe what the White House is saying about that, and we'll get into that a little later in the program. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Dozens reported dead in a brazen attack in the Moscow region of Russia. We'll have the latest. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson under fire from his own party. We'll explain. And in the light of the tragedy involving Riley Strain here in Nashville, can the city do anything to make downtown safer? The mayor weighs in. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 24 minutes past the hour, 25 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's been not an unreasonably bad day so far. I've got 74 degrees here in bucolic Watertown, but looking at the radar, boom, 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 it's coming toward us. The rain is moving up from the south, and this is not where it normally comes from. It normally comes from, like the north and the west. But this is moving up from the south, and it looks like it's we're going to get wet here before it's all over with.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd make it through the entire week with no rain. I know we had a little bit on Monday, but
yeah. Well, it looks like it doesn't look like severe weather by any nature, but definitely like right now, it's definitely raining in Chatty, and it's moving into the Columbia area just south of Nashville now. So we're going to get some rain. We had a very sad outcome today. I think we all sort of suspected this was going to happen, but today the police department, the fire department, they recovered the body of missing a student from Missouri, Riley Strain. They recovered the body from the river. Here is Police Chief John Drake earlier today describing how this all happened.
As they were removing an object from the river, they noticed what appeared to be Riley Strain pop up. The fire department was called in, retrieved the body from the river. The medical examiner's office reviewed the body and that it is Riley Strain. There are no signs of foul play at this time, according to the examination here at the riverbank. There would be an autopsy more than likely sometime today, and we'll have a little bit further from that point. We have reports that normally under these circumstances with his height and weight, that he could have surfaced between 14 and 20 days. This is the 14th day, so we were really expecting anytime soon to find him. In fact, our search teams was going to put in the water here this morning and then search from this point further down. So we were in the right spot. It's just unfortunate, but there's nothing to suggest anything other than any foul play at all.
He doesn't suggest any foul play whatsoever. Walking, fell into the river. I'm still a little mystified by why his bank card and just his bank card was found on the riverbed. I'd like to know more about that. And just I don't know. Mason, I know maybe it's a generational thing, but I mean, people my age put our bank cards in our wallet and we keep them in our back pocket.
Yeah, that's where I keep mine as well. I do have some friends that like to keep theirs separate from, like in their phone or just in different someplace a little easier access, so they don't have to pull out their entire wallet and flip through it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What's the point in having your wallet then?
Yeah, I don't know, but that one just sort of bothers me. But no foul play initially expected, and as he said, there'll be an autopsy report. Autopsy reports can come back pretty quickly, but toxicology reports, which are what I think we want to look at pretty closely, sometimes take a little time. They have to go off and be analyzed at the lab, as they say. The question is, was he overserved? Now, the folks at the bar, the Luke Bryan bar that he was at, said he had a beer and 2 glasses of water, and it was his behavior that we decided to ask him to leave and ask him to leave. But was he already overserved before he got there is a question. Were there other things at play besides alcohol is a question. There's a lot of things that will be answered, I think, when we get the autopsy report. But a sad outcome here to this. And, sadly, when you've worked covering police departments and in the news business for some time, you learn about this. When a body drowns, it goes to the bottom. And it takes, depending on the temperature of the water, the size of the body, et cetera, there's a whole formula that they plug these numbers into that give you some indication about when the decomposition of the body will cause the body to float. They said that they thought it would happen on the 14th, between the 14th and 20th day, and this was day 14. So not surprising that they have found the body 8 miles downriver, and as you heard the chief say, about 8 miles from where they think he fell into the water. So it had moved downriver because of the currents, etc. And a sad outcome for the family. I think maybe some lessons still to be learned. The mayor has said maybe we need to put some barricades down there that make it more difficult to stop somebody as they slide down the hill before they fall into the water. But I do think maybe that the larger impact of this story will have to be on what we do about overserving young people, maybe not at the Luke Bryan bar, but maybe somewhere else. If the information bears that out, then maybe we need to have a reconsideration of what we do in situations like this when you have people who appear to have been overserved. We'll continue to watch that story as well. A lot going on today, and we're just barely getting started. It is 31 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon. It's 3:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got 75 degrees on Music Row and a few clouds and some sun. A weather forecast and the traffic report are coming up. Russia's foreign ministry calls a shooting attack on a rock concert hall in the Moscow region a terrorist attack. So far, there have been no claims of responsibility.
Multiple heavily armed gunmen opened fire at one of Moscow's largest malls. Video circulating online shows at least 3 attackers firing automatic assault rifles among crowds inside a packed concert hall. Russia's FSB intelligence service says at least 40 people have been killed and 100 injured so far. A huge fire has broken out and part of the mall's roof has reportedly collapsed. This is already one of the worst terror attacks to hit Moscow in many years.
That's ABC's Patrick Reevell reporting from the Foreign Desk. Back in our nation's capital, House passage of a $1.2 trillion spending bill that would avoid a partial government shutdown has sparked calls for the ouster of House Speaker Mike Johnson. Stephen Portnoy reports.
The measure passed with the support of most House Democrats, while most Republicans voted against it. And now Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene says the Speaker has crossed a line.
This is a Democrat budget, and it was passed by Mike Johnson.
Greene says she's not yet decided when or whether she'll demand a vote, but her resolution to oust Speaker Johnson at least amounts to a warning shot. In response, Johnson's office says he'll listen to the concerns of members, but he's focused on governing.
Former President Trump against a Monday deadline to pay the nearly $500 million bond in the civil fraud trial. An acquisition company now approved a merger with Trump's social media company. Aaron Katursky has details.
He does own a large share of Truth Social, which will now begin as soon as next week as a publicly traded company. Right now, the share price is about $40 a share, and that could give Trump's stake a value of about $3 billion. So that's good news for him as he faces a cash crunch in his campaign and as he faces all of these legal entanglements.
Back here in Nashville, the body of missing Mizzou student Riley Strain was recovered from the Cumberland River this morning. Shortly after Metro Nashville police announced the recovery, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell held his weekly roundtable and discussed what could come from this situation to make Nashville safer. The mayor was specifically asked if this story has made national headlines, whether it casts Music City in a poor light.
I would say we share the goal with the Convention and Visitors Corporation of constantly investing in the safety of the city, and particularly the entertainment district, because we want not just residents to be safe in their neighborhoods, whether or not they ever go to a honky-tonk, but we also want visitors of the city to be safe.
The young man's body was found 14 days to the day he was last seen in downtown Nashville. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather. They are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You've heard me talk about my friends at Nashville Golden Coin. They're about to relocate to a new office space and are reducing inventory at this time and offering silver coins and bars at the lowest price ever. Maybe you've seen that silver prices and gold prices are up right now. This could be a good opportunity to get in at a very low cost. They've got your generic silver rounds and bars offered as low as $1.50 over spot price. They're selling the top of the line American Silver Eagles at $3.50 over spot price from now until March 26th. Silver Canadian Maple Leafs as low as $2 over spot price. They do have a limited supply at these prices, so give them a call today and take advantage of this offer as they are trying to relocate and get rid of some of their inventory. They continue to stock all your gold and silver staples as well. So if you've been on the fence about putting some of your dollars in real hard metal assets, never been a better time to jump in with Nashville Golden Coin. You can find them at NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. Set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. Let's call it 40 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. You're listening to The Drive on an incredibly busy news day. This is one of those days where you buckle up and we'll just keep feeding you information as best we can get it to you. Again, if you're just joining us, some kind of horrific terrorist attack in Moscow at a concert, a well-known concert venue there. Known as the Crocus City Hall. There was a group called Picnic that was playing. At least five men with sort of assault weapon rifles, it appears, entered and started firing indiscriminately into the crowd. 40 are dead, 100 injured, and then the building went on fire. There was a report of an explosion, and the building continues to be on fire. And pictures that are coming out of that area now suggest that they're using, what we would use to fight a forest fire, helicopters with buckets of water being dumped on the fire from above. We'll continue to stay on that as well. The border story continues to devolve. Now, yesterday, I told you, and no doubt by now you have seen the viral video of maybe 150, 200 illegal migrants overrunning the Texas State National Guard and overpowering them along a fence line where they had the concertina wire. And everybody has been talking about that. What's going on the border? It completely devolved. That whole thing is angering. And when it came up today at the White House, Peter Doocy asked Karine Jean-Pierre, what should happen to those migrants? Listen very carefully to see if you get an answer, if you detect an answer here.
What does President Biden think should happen to adult men who are assaulting and overpowering U.S. National Guardsmen?
Well, let me just first say we're grateful, and I said this moments ago, to Border Patrol agents for their to quickly work and get the situation under control and apprehend the migrants. So I want to be really clear that everyone who was apprehended by Border Patrol. They were able to do their job, even though it's made it more. Even though Republican governor, in particular Governor Abbott, has made it difficult for them. They need more resources. We need more personnel. I mean, we have to have the backs of our law enforcement on the ground who are dealing with this every day. But Republicans are getting in the way. Republicans in Congress do not want to help. And you have a Governor Abbott, who's politicizing it. That is what's happening. Border Patrol agents did their job, even though the governor's getting in the way of them doing their jobs.
Yeah, it's all the governor's fault. And here's the really maddening thing. This is what's going to make you mad about the whole thing. Even after tussling with National Guardsmen, those individuals were allowed into the country. Here is the reporter who was there and brought us that video from the New York Post. And she describes what happened after the incident that you have all witnessed, that very ugly incident.
Yes, many of these people did get processed by Border Patrol under Title VIII, which is what is typically used for what we know as catch and release. These are people that are mainly released into the country. So this sends the message to people around the world that even if you act like this, you can probably get into the country. And I think they continue to push these boundaries and to see what they can get away with. And here they got away with some really, really scary stuff and, appeared to be assaulting some of the National Guardsmen. It was totally out of control.
Yeah, you just go ahead and beat up on the National Guard. Just go ahead and violate the law, and we'll still let you into the freaking country. Again, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked some pretty tough questions in the briefing room today.
Has the president seen that dramatic video of migrants surging past National Guardsmen in Texas and in El Paso?
I mean, look, I have not spoken to the president about that video. What I can say is this. I really, truly believe that's a question for, the Republican governor of Texas, right? This is something that he should address, that he should actually speak to. The president has worked with Congress in the Senate, as I just spoke to, about getting an immigration bill done, making sure that we deal with the border challenges that we're now seeing, and you have a governor of Texas who has continued to politicize this.
No, he's not. He's trying to protect his state, and by the way, doing the job that the federal government refuses to do. This whole thing that it's Texas's fault is wearing a little thin. Even for the person in charge of the Border Patrol, Jason Owens. Now, before this whole thing took place, Jason Owens was interviewed on CBS News, and he makes no bones about it. He appreciates the help of the state of Texas.
I'll tell you that, especially in Texas, there's no better partner for the Border Patrol than the Texas Department of Public Safety. We have worked hand in hand with that agency for as long as I've been around, and I don't see that ever stopping. They have always been very good at complementing our mission. They back us up when we're out in the field, and we do for them as well. So whatever the laws are that they're going to be enforcing, our mission remains constant. Their mission remains constant. And at the ground level, I don't see it ever changing, where we're going to be there to work together to make sure that we keep the communities and our country safe.
So the man who's responsible for the Border Patrol said, we got no issue with the state of Texas and what they're doing. And by the way, you know what? That gets worked out on the local level, regardless of what the policies are in Washington. When you talk to a Border Patrol agent and you talk to somebody who is a Texas Department of Public Safety officer, there's a brotherhood there. They're going to look out for each other. They are not responsible for policy, but they're sure as heck going to watch out for each other and work in concert where they can. The problem is not with the Border Patrol. The problem is not with the Texas DPS. The problem is not with the National Guard that are there. The problem is the policy coming out of Washington. It's just pure and simple. That's the only problem. And how do you fix it? Again, the man in charge of the Border Patrol has the answer if only the president would listen.
What do you need the most to deter people from crossing the Rio Grande illegally or the desert in Arizona and California illegally?
So everything revolves around being able to deliver a consequence for an action that you don't want a person to commit. So you don't speed because you're afraid of getting pulled over and getting a fine, a ticket. If people know that there's going to be a consequence for breaking the law, they're going to be less likely to do it. The other piece of that is you need the agents out on patrol to be able to enforce that consequence. Those two things together at a basic level are what makes up our border security apparatus.
Yeah, you got to have a consequence. If you have come across the border and there's a consequence, guess what? You'll stop coming across the border. But let's remember what we heard from the reporter that was on the scene. There was no consequence. Beat up on the National Guard, and you're still allowed in the country.
Yes, many of these people did get processed by Border Patrol under Title 8, which is what is typically used for what we know as catch and release. These are people that are mainly released into the country. So this sends the message to people around the world that even if you act like this, you can probably get into the country. And
I know. Maddening, isn't it? And here you hear the White House pointing the finger at the governor of Texas. It's his fault. He's in the way. He's the problem. I would say to you, with all due respect, that he's not the problem. He's the solution. And if only the stupid, Supreme Court and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals will get out of his way, he would solve the problem. He would take care of the matter. But no. It's Abbott's fault. He's the one who's causing the problem. We here at the White House have no responsibility for anything that has happened on the border, which, as you know, I feel is an unmitigated bunch of. In fact, it's the trifecta. Just stop it. Just stop it. We know who's responsible for this. The policies of Joe Biden when he rescinded 94 different executive actions by executive, we rescinded the policies of Donald Trump. We had it under control. We had it largely under control. Certainly don't have the problem that we have now. And now, so emboldened are they? Now they're talking. They're doing TikTok videos and saying, "Hey, come on down to America. We can squat in houses and we can live in places for free. All we got to do is squat there." I'm telling you, madness. And the good news is it's not lost on the American people. They understand who is responsible. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Let me tell you about King & Associate Insurance in Brentwood, 25 years in the business as an independent agency. That's a great advantage for you because when an independent agency is handling your business, they can weed out those policies that don't really work. They can look around, they can shop around, they can find you something that will really get the job done. And that's what you want, right? More bang for your insurance buck. You want a policy that really protects you, not just something that they pulled off the shelf because that's what they sell. And then if you call this number, 615-329-8121, you don't get a call center. You don't get a phone tree. You don't get that absolutely aggravating phone call message say, well, your call is important to us. Please stand by. Well, if it was important to you, they'd answer it, wouldn't they? Now you're going to get a person who will answer the phone over at King & Associates. They're the king of the multi-policy discount. They can bundle and save you a lot, 20, 25, 30, 35%. So get your royal review today with King & Associates. Find out what they can do for you. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Russia's foreign ministry calling a mass shooting at a concert hall a terrorist attack. We'll have what we know. A shocking announcement from Buckingham Palace today. And in light of the tragedy involving Riley Strain, the mayor weighs in on what the city could do to make downtown safer along the Cumberland River. Those stories coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the markets. It was not a particularly good day on the markets, but it was a pretty good week overall. The Dow was down 300 points today, ending at 39,475. That's down 304 points. NASDAQ is down 7. The NASDAQ is up 26. The S&P is down 7. So we have mixed indices today. So a pretty good week, but we're all watching, exactly what's going to happen with the Fed. And it's really been a pretty good run. John Maxon is standing by over at Beacon Capital Management with more on that. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, not a particularly great day in the market, as you said, but overall, the three major indexes all notched a gain. The NASDAQ actually hit a record today. Of course, we're eyeing that 40,000. That seems to be a little bit of elusive on the Dow, and so much of this is continued momentum because Chairman Powell came out and really gave the market some reassurance after we got some inflation reports that weren't great, that they're still on pace to really stop raising interest rates and do cuts later this year. So the market really continues to like that. So at least through this week, really good for the indexes. And then next week, a lot of economic information to absorb, including a GDP revision, consumer confidence, and some additional inflation materials. So important week next week.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Find out about all the things that John Maxon and the good people at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon. It's 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. The clouds have arrived, and we've got 72 degrees on Music Row. Traffic and a complete forecast coming up in just a few. Russia's foreign ministry calling a mass shooting at a concert hall that's killed at least 40 people a terror attack. Here's ABC's Andy Field with the reaction from the Biden administration.
Reaction at the White House?
The images are just horrible.
National Security spokesman John Kirby unable to offer more information on who might be behind the Moscow mass shooting, but warning all Americans there
to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that.
John Kirby reminding the world that Russia has inflicted unprovoked deadly force on Ukraine for more than 2 years.
Thus far, 40 people have been confirmed dead, with over 100 injured. In the UK, Princess Catherine has been diagnosed with cancer. The princess saying in a video that she's in the early stages of preventative chemotherapy treatment, which she started in late February. The princess saying tests following her abdominal surgery in January revealed the cancer. And at the time of her surgery, doctors thought her condition was non-cancerous. Here is the ABC News Royals contributor, Robert Jobson.
This is deeply, deeply shocking. I think a lot of people didn't expect anything like this. Not only to have the king, who's obviously not really, only he's carrying out constitutional duties, but he's recovering and being treated for cancer. But the other real star performer, the Princess of Wales, to come out and what I thought was a courageous statement, the way she gave that address. It showed what a steely character she is.
The palace has yet to identify just what type of cancer the princess is dealing with. The body of missing Mizzou student Riley Strain was recovered from the Cumberland River early this morning. Shortly after the Nashville Police Department announced the recovery, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell held his weekly roundtable and discussed what could come from this situation to make Nashville a bit safer downtown along the Cumberland River.
I've walked this stretch for decades, and I could certainly imagine there being barriers that made it harder to get from the sidewalk into the areas of growth that are right there along the riverbank.
Strain's body was found 14 days to the day that he was last seen in downtown Nashville. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. Hour number 2 of the drive on this Friday. That's right. We got a lot going in this hour, including our round 1 at 4:35 of today's Phone Your FARB Friday. Listen, we count on you to participate in this, so get your thoughts together. And we have some news that we're following today. Let's hold off on that for a moment. Following today, bring you up to date on this. There's been a shooting, an explosion, and fire at a concert in Moscow, and it appears to be a terrorist attack. Maybe as many as 5 gunmen, maybe more, who have taken over and killed 40 people and wounded hundreds of others. And it is being described by the folks in Moscow, by the officials there, as a terrorist attack. It certainly does seem to have the hallmarks of all that. Beyond that, we don't know a great deal, although that Vladimir Zelensky and the United States are saying it wasn't Ukraine. So just to know that is apparently not what it was. So we're continuing to follow that, and again, a breaking news situation. We'll stay up on top of that. Now let's go to the swamp, because we got some swampalicious stuff to talk about. Oh my goodness, the craziness continues in the swamp. Let me see if I can sort of explain to you what has happened. We need to pass some kind of spending bill, or the government was going to close down. Now, I'm perfectly fine to let the government shut down. But I don't know, the thinking in Washington these days on both sides of the aisle seems to be nobody really wants to have a government shutdown, because if they have a government shutdown, it's just a pox on both of their houses. And the Republicans probably would have taken the hit on this one because they if they were to not pass a spending bill by tonight at midnight, then the government would have closed down. I don't care. Close the sucker down. I got no issues with it, but that's the thinking there. The problem is when you are the Republican leader of the House, the Speaker of the House, you only control, one half of one body, and the Democrats control the Senate, and the Democrats control the White House. So there's only so far you can push it unless you're willing to shut the sucker down. And when he did, he cut a deal with the White House for $1.2 trillion in government spending. And House conservatives, notably among them Chip Roy and, others, decided that they were going to vote against it. And so to get it passed, you had to have establishment Republicans joining Democrats to pass it in the House of Representatives. And that's apparently what happened earlier today. House of Representatives narrowly passed a $1.2 trillion federal spending package, according to Fox News, along bipartisan lines, taking a step closer. Legislation was expedited to the floor House via suspension of the rules. The measure passed by 286 votes, 134 votes against. More Republicans voted against the bill than for it. 112 lawmakers opposed the bill, 106 voted for it, and just 22 Democrats voted against it. It comprised of 6 appropriation bills that account for roughly 70% of discretionary government spending. It was unveiled 3 a.m. Thursday night. It was voted on early this morning. It is aimed at funding the government through the remainder of fiscal year 24, which ends on September 30th. And it puts the Congress one step closer to ending a month-long war that has spurred historic levels of dysfunction within the House and its razor-thin majority. It is razor-thin and about to get more razor-thin. The Senate, however, has not yet passed this matter, and some senators, Republican senators, say they will make their grievances known when they try to pass it. That will be happening today. Partial government shutdown will occur if the package isn't passed by both chambers and signed by President Biden by 12:01 a.m. on Saturday. I mean, it's Saturday, Sunday. Nobody would really notice if the government was closed down over the weekend. Some things, but I doubt it would really amount to much. Senator Mike Lee of Utah, says he doesn't like the divided wire. That's why I went to the floor and proposed a continuing resolution that would take us through April 12th. He said that what he sees in this bill is just, quote unquote, sad. This is a crazy way to run the country, says Senator Rick Scott, Republican of Florida, about the amount of time senators had to review the 1,012-page spending package. The process is terrible, said Pete Ricketts, Republican of Nebraska. We should be voting on these bills individually. Senator Rand Paul, a vocal fiscal hawk, slammed the appropriations measure, saying, quote, the current level of spending that is represented by this spending bill will add another $1.5 trillion to the debt. I think that threatens our country, and it's a very important debate. We should be debating. We should not continue to have so much deficit. Will he prolong the process? He said, we'll see. So there we have it. This measure, now moving forward. According to Breitbart, they looked at the DHS budget battle and said that Democrats mostly won. You know, DHS, of course, responsible for the border. The political problem is too much fear in the GOP about getting blamed for a government shutdown, especially in an election year, so Democrats keep winning the game, says Laura Rise, Director of Border Security and Immigration at the Heritage Foundation. House Speaker is an immigration hawk, but he's also facing a discharge petition pushed by pro-business Republicans who are working hand-in-hand with Democrats. We'll get to that in a moment. Mike Johnson under pressure to pass it. He did pass it. And then here's the new development. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has filed an initial motion to oust Speaker Johnson. Now, you say, well, hold it, Wilson, you buried the lead. Well, it isn't imminent. And she says she's not really ready to push it to the nth degree just now. I'll let you hear her. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, why did you do that?
I filed the motion to vacate today, but it's more of a warning and a pink slip. I respect our conference. I paid all my dues to my conference. I'm a member in good standing, and I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority instead of standing with the Democrats.
That's a warning. If it's a warning, if it's a warning, does that mean that you're not going to go through and force this vote?
No, I will. There's
nothing that can convince you to back off.
There's not a time limit on this. It doesn't have to be forced and throw the House into chaos. I don't want to put any of our members in a difficult place like we were for 3.5 weeks. We're going to continue our committee work. We're going to continue our investigations. There's a lot of good investigations going that have to be able to proceed, and the American people deserve that. But I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when. But I am saying the clock has started. It's time for our conference to choose a new speaker.
Do you believe that there are more Republicans who support this push? And ultimately, if this does get filed, it could lead to exactly what you're saying, more chaos, more paralysis. Does the House Republican conference want to move forward with that?
It's filed, but it's not voted on. It only voted on until I call it to the floor for a vote.
Yeah, so this is step one. If she goes to the floor and calls it, remember, under the rules of the House, one individual can call and say, I move to vacate the chair. And then they got to have a vote on it. And the margins are razor thin, incredibly thin for Mike Johnson. How thin? Here we go. This story, I forgot where I found it. Reported by Eleanor Mueller and Olivia Beavers. Speaker Mike Johnson is about to drop to a one-vote majority as retiring Representative Mike Gallagher has decided he will exit the House as soon as next month, according to two people with knowledge of the matter. In a statement shortly after this story published, Gallagher said he planned to leave April 19th. I've worked closely with House Republican leadership on this timeline and look forward to seeing Speaker Mike Johnson appoint a new chair to carry out the important mission on the committee, Select Committee on Chinese Communist Party. The Wisconsin Republican announced earlier this year he would not seek re-election after he received blowback for voting against impeaching Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. His allies, however, say he was long jaded by the antics of the House following the ouster of Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It's bad timing for Johnson, who is now potentially facing a vote on his ouster in coming weeks. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene filed the so-called motion to vacate on Friday over Johnson working with Democrats to pass this massive spending bill. It's unclear when she'll try to force the vote on the floor. She says she will. You heard her. Gallagher's decision also further fuels House GOP concerns over its trajectory headed into the November elections. Fewer mainstream Republicans like him mean more power in the hands of GOP hardliners, they say. It's tough, but it's tough with a 5-seat majority. It's tough with a 2-seat majority. One is going to be the same. We all have to work together. We're all going to have to unite if we're going to get some things done. Majority Leader Steve Scalise said shortly after Gallagher announcing his early exit. Since Gallagher announced his retirement, the chair of the chair of the Select Committee on China has nabbed a legacy-making moment, House passage of a bipartisan bill that would force TikTok to in the U.S. to sever its ties with the Chinese government, something he'd been working on. All right, my analysis. He's got a 1-vote margin, and all it takes is for 2 members of the Republican caucus to say, we don't want him to be Speaker anymore, to trigger the whole thing again, like we had with Kevin McCarthy. And we know how long that took to resolve and how chaotic we looked and how out of control and everything stopped, right? Well, first of all, I don't want these investigations to stop. We will have, essentially, if that happens, we will have a non-functioning House of Representatives. It will not be able to meet. It will not be able to go forward because if Johnson is out, and unless they have decided who's going to be the next speaker, we'll probably go through vote after vote after vote after vote because you have to get virtually everybody on board with one person. We just did this 5 months ago. Johnson has only been the speaker 5 months. So where am I on it? Look, am I thrilled about this budget bill? No. Do I understand the realities of what it is to try to pass a measure like this on Capitol Hill? Yeah, I understand it, and it's not easy, especially when you control one house. Divided government means you have to work across the aisles or you have to shut the government down. Most people believe, and I'm among them, that a government shutdown, though you may feel good about it, and I would personally relish it, it will not look good in an election year, and Republicans will lose ground. I don't like it. The way you solve this problem is to win elections. And if we go down this path, I'm telling you, I think we will lose some elections that are on the bubble in the House of Representatives. Look, I feel fairly good about what's going on in the Senate in the coming election. I feel fairly good about what's going on with the chances of Donald Trump becoming the president. The way you run the board is you have all three, right? The House is a dodgy thing. I don't know whether the House can hold on to the majority or not. But one thing I know for certain, if you send us into a period of chaos, some races where Republicans might pull it out that are on the bubble may well go the other way, and we lose House seats. Look, it's not perfect. I mean, there's no perfect solution here. You either decide that you're going to shut the government down and run the risk of losing seats and therefore losing the House, maybe even a greater impact than that, or you have to find the best compromise you can find and live to fight another day. And look, I'm not happy about it. I don't like it. I don't like this measure at all. But it seems to me we're in a really difficult spot at this particular moment. And the last thing we need is, another protracted battle for the Speaker of the House. We may have to open up the phones because I can hear you yelling at the radio right now. And we should have that conversation. We'll probably do that at some point. Well, we could do it during Phone Your FARB Friday. 22 past the hour now.
Here's some of what Metro Police Chief John Drake had to say as to how the body of Riley Strain was discovered. And we'll also have today's closing money news. Those stories at the bottom of the hour at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, listen, coming up at after the news with our good friend Jay Harper there, we're going to be doing our first round of Phone Your FARB Friday. So let's talk about this thing with the speaker or other things that are on your mind. Anything is possible during Phone Your FARB Friday, again at 4:35. To recap a couple of big breaking stories that we're trying to cover here today. This afternoon, our time in Russia, it was evening. There was a concert that was going to be taking place in a venue called Crocus City Hall in northwest of Moscow, in a suburb area of Moscow, for a group called Picnic, 6,200-seat venue. They were filling up before the concert, and 4 or maybe 5 gunmen walked in camouflage with assault weapons and started indiscriminately firing upon the crowds there. They're now saying that 40 people are dead, including children, and maybe as many as 100 injured. There was also an explosion were heard and a huge fire, which has caused part of the roof in the theater to collapse. About 100 people were hiding in the basement, and they got themselves out safely. The Russian National Guard is involved in the hunt for the attackers. Moscow says this is a terrorist attack. The United States and Ukraine, President Zelensky of Ukraine has said this was not us. This was not us, and the United States and their intelligence is starting to back that up. The sort of weird thing about this is the U.S. Embassy about 2 weeks ago put out a statement warning people who work at the U.S. Embassy are Americans who are living in Moscow, and there are some who are there for business and other reasons, should be very careful not to go to large events because they were picking up some intelligence chatter about a group that wanted to carry out an attack in some kind of venue where there would be a lot of people. So that does seem to match up. It was 2 weeks ago, and they thought it was more imminent then, and they said over the next few days, don't go anywhere where there are a lot of people. Well, it's been 2 weeks, but now this has happened. And again, being called a terrorist attack, and that's really about all we know. The other news from over across the pond, Kate Middleton, Duchess Kate, has apparently cancer, and she has said so in a statement, and sort of explains all of the chaos, wondering where is the princess and what's going on. We now know that she has told the world she's suffering from some form of cancer. What kind? Not entirely known. All right, look, coming up, we'll got the news, and after that, get ready for Phone Your FARB Friday. The phone lines are now open at 615-737-9986 if you want to get on board and get your spot secured early. Right now, it is 4:30, time for the news on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It is 4:30 p.m. I'm Jay Harper. We're looking at cloudy skies, 71 degrees. A changing forecast is on the way. We'll also have the latest traffic report. Metro Police confirmed the body of Riley Strain was recovered 2 weeks to the day he went missing after a night with his fraternity in downtown Nashville. Strain's body was located by barge workers this morning in the Cumberland River, about 8 miles west of his last known location. Chief John Drake told reporters at the scene there is no foul play-related trauma on the remains, and it appears the 22-year-old accidentally fell into the river. Here's Chief Drake on the events that led up to the young man's body being discovered.
Workers typically on the river, whether it's barge companies, concrete companies, other businesses that actually are on the river, and they look routinely. It's happened countless times before. And as they moved, I believe, a barge, and don't quote me on that, they removed something from the river, and as they moved it, they noticed Mr. Strain.
An autopsy is scheduled. Results could be released sometime today. The latest money news to close out the week. Here is Daria Albinger.
It was a big day for the big board, with all three of the major indices closing at all-time highs. The Dow soared 269 points, the Nasdaq added 32, and the S&P closed up 17. The Russell 2000, a small-cap index, also closed at a new record. Reddit soared in its first day as a publicly traded company, raising close to $9 billion in a matter of seconds. The IPO was priced at $47 a share, a little higher than the $34 that the company had initially announced. Reddit's gains helped offset a drop for Apple, which is dealing with the impact of an antitrust lawsuit. Apple is promising to fight the suit, which was filed by the Justice Department. Sales of previously occupied homes rose from January to February at the strongest pace in a year. The National Association of Realtors says home buyers are encouraged by a modest pullback in mortgage rates and more properties on the market.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It is 37, making 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair, and you're listening to The Drive. On this 22nd day of March, rain moving into the area. Right now in Watertown, a bucolic Watertown, it's 69 degrees. Let's see. It's time we do this, and we do this every week on Friday, 4:35, 5:35. It's not a competition, but let's do the 4 o'clock round of Phone Your FARB Friday. What are you thinking? What's on your mind? That's what my dad used to say to me all the time. What were you thinking? No, we want to know what you are thinking. 615-737-9986. Maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I really hope you never have a bug. We don't want that. Just get on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself, within reason, because it is a family show. We got a lot of open phone lines, 615-737-9986. Maybe you want to talk about what the House of Representatives has done. Maybe you got another idea that things that are on your topic. Get busy, fill up them phone lines. Really, you've got to do well, because the 5 o'clock bring their A game. Okay? Let's go to Gary, who is calling in. Hello, Gary. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Smyrna, Brian.
All right, so what's on your mind today, Gary?
Well, I've been listening to you for a long time, sir, and I'm sick of these illegal immigrants. I've had enough.
I know.
As far as I know, citizen arrest is still an active thing. But with some of these good old boys, we start rounding these suckers up, we take them back to the border ourselves.
Well,
what the House of Representatives done today? Nah, they're spineless.
Yeah, you're talking about the budget vote. Yeah, well, and we're gonna have to talk about that some more, I think, because a lot of people have that on their mind as things they want to discuss. Look, I'll tell you, the border situation. I mean, you know how I feel about it. I've been nothing but consistent about this from day one. And look, when you have people who get into basically a scuffle and a scrum with National Guard, and they're pushing, I would say, an assault, and then Then about, half an hour later, they're allowed to go into the country. They are given permission to come into the country. What do you have to do to be sent back across the river? And it's wrong. It's just wrong. And this is exactly what the Democrats want. It's exactly what they want. They want to do this because they want to have an impact on the demographics of this country, the voting demographics for years to come. And this is one of the ways they think they can do it. They're trying to gain power. They're trying to get more seats in Congress by sending some of these folks to the blue states that are currently losing population, and at least hold on to what they got, if not gain a few seats. So we're talking about a real battle for political power, and they don't care what the downside is. The Democrats don't. Thank you for your call, Gary. Let's go to Danny in Lebanon. Danny, what's on your mind today? Hello, Danny.
Yeah. Hey, I was listening to Andy Ogles this morning, and have you read any of that was in the bill that they threw out there?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like. In fact, here's a little bit of Ogles from earlier today.
Some will say that the Republicans are in the majority in the House, but it's clear that the Democrats own the Speaker's gavel. Because this bill, it's not a Republican piece of legislation.
That's of course that comes from his office, and they put music behind it. But he's not at all happy with what has happened. Your thought?
They first of all, they have gain of function in there again. They're going to fund that like we haven't learned that from the first time. They got $250 million in for the CDC. They have money in there for a gay senior citizen center. They have transsexual high school proms they funding. It's just totally ridiculous. They just need to burn the place. No, I don't mean to say that.
No, you be careful about saying that, right?
I meant to say shut the place down and just get it all figured out and start over. That's what
it is maddening. And the only thing that I can hope is that that Americans are taking note. Again, remember, we're one body, and we have control over the House of Representatives. The Democrats control the Senate, and they control the White House. And so When you're in that position, split government, there's only so far you can go if you're not willing to shut down the government. Now, that a lot of people are saying, just do that. Let's shut down the government. But you know what? During an election year, that might have negative impacts that really hurt us in replacing and getting more Republicans elected. Because I think clearly, if the House were not to take this up and voted against it, the House would be blamed for shutting down the government. You may like that, and there's certainly a great deal of joy that I would have that comes along with that. But the longer term impact of that is that you alienate people, and you may not be able to hold on to the Republican majority in the House. You may not be able to flip the Senate, which is looking pretty good right now. I mean, there's no great solution here as far as I can see. But thank you for the call. Chad calling in about the election. Chad, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian, long-time listener, love your show.
Thank you.
Just wanted to talk about the election. I love that you frequently give the poll numbers. And while it's a good thing to hear the numbers on our side, they've already proven that they'll do anything to lie, cheat, or steal. And so they're going to earn the votes to make Biden a winner in the end. And I'm telling you right now, when they come in and Trump does not win, things are going to get really ugly around here. But I'm not going to have any faith in this election. They're going to do whatever it takes to get the numbers on their side. So, and that's the real scary thing.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that 7 million of these illegal citizens now, is what they call them, you can't tell me that they're not going to be infiltrating the polls come election time.
Yeah, I know, and I hear this all the time. And look, you make a fair point. I think there's some good reason to be concerned. One of the things I read was in Pennsylvania. I think was it Pennsylvania? I forget. Maybe it was Arizona. Yeah, I think it was Arizona. They decided that they looked at the voter rolls. They were hopefully bloated, just impossibly bloated. There are more people than could possibly vote because there are more people than are registered to vote on the rolls. And so you got to clean up the rolls. You got to be quick. Here's the problem: if you think something happened in an election and you want to try to prove it, the narrow window you have to prove it is between the time that the votes are counted and the time that the votes are certified. You got to do it in that window, and it's a really difficult thing to do, to get conclusive evidence in very short order. I will say I think we are prepared as best we can. There certainly seems to be a lot of money set aside to chase these things down when it happens. And I'm hoping for the best. I don't know what to tell you except that maybe there's going to be such an overwhelming response that it will overwhelm those efforts by the other side. I'm hoping. I try to be as positive as I can. David, calling in from Mount Juliet. You're on with Brian. What's on your mind, David?
Hey, Brian. Yeah, just want to voice my frustration with this trial in New York with Trump and what they're doing to him and how they'll, just any way they can to stop this poor guy. I've got all the faith in the world he'll figure it out, but, there's only two people that are doing it, is this judge and this DA, and it's just a shame there's not some way that can't be stopped. It's just unbelievable. I don't understand it.
Well, I read something today that I've got in my Your FARB page, FARB.com, that talks about, how it's called Trump, under the Trump World tab. And basically it says that, this is not going to happen immediately. It's a much more complicated process than you might imagine. And he just today sold, he allowed Truth Social to go public, and he's on tap to pull down $3.5 trillion. Trillion with a T. That's a ton of money. Now, it's going to take him a little while to get it, but, he's going to survive this thing just fine. And the question is, can he get past the short term with the judge trying to put padlocks on his businesses and seize Trump Tower? But as you will read in that story, it's a very complicated process that may take a while. It's not going to happen in a day or two. And that was a surprise to me because I thought it could happen pretty quickly. David, thank you for that. I'll try to get more on that story before we get out of here tonight. How about Dave, line 6? Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I got a question for you about the border.
Okay.
Now, Biden went and took away all the executive orders that Trump set up in his term, but we still have all the laws that were on the books from the beginning. So aren't they flat out just breaking the law, letting all these people in?
Well, if you want to know my opinion, yeah, I think so. But here's the problem. How do you prove that in a court of law? And, what happens here is what happens when, you got the law, and then somebody gets elected, and they send out executive orders saying, we interpret the law this way. This is what we think the law meant. And if you are in Congress and you were part of passing that law and you say, no, that's not what we meant, you have to then adjudicate this in a court of law. And it takes forever. And sometimes, you can find favor in the courts and sometimes you can't. So presidents are, through executive order, do a lot of things explaining how they want the law interpreted and what the agencies that respond to the executive branch, like the Border Patrol, like the DHS, like ICE. This is what we think our policies will be based on our understanding and our interpretation of the law. So the laws are still there, but apparently open to interpretation. And unless the Supreme Court weighs in, they're going to do it. They're going to continue to do it. I want to get one more in. Let's see. Jeff from Cedar Hill. Jeff, you're on with Brian. Real quick, what's your thought?
Hey, Brian. Just a real quick thought on the budget. They know when these deadlines are coming way ahead. They always do this, wait to the last minute, and then they make it, hey, we're doing it for the good of the country to keep the government open. The government really hasn't done a whole lot of anything for us. Nobody that lives in this country anyway. Shut it down. I understand Republicans are worried about them getting blamed for it, but, they only have, a one-seat majority, so I think there's plenty of blame to go around, and it's just how you sell it. I mean, look at the border. They had H.R. 2 sitting on the Senate desk, Schumer's, since last May. Johnson told them, unless that's signed and we get moving on that, we're not going to approve any budgets.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it takes so long, I can answer that question, I think, is that we did push back. We pushed back and we pushed back and we said no, we said no, we said no, we said no. I mean, we really did. I think Mike Johnson, fought the best fight he could fight. And there are some things in there that I think as a conservatives like. There are a lot of things in there that they will not like. And I think that's true in any budget, probably. But you know what? Reasonable people can take a different look at this. I have hope that the way things are shaping up, that Republicans are going to maintain their majority in the House, maintain and actually flip the Senate. I mean, that's looking pretty good. I like the numbers, and I'll get into them here in a few moments about how it's looking for Donald Trump. There's some more new numbers out today and a lot of news in that regard. It would be great if we could get all three, and then just, we just run the board. We take advantage of it, and we do everything we can to right the wrongs and put this country on the right track. So it's a gamble either way. You're going to have a lot of people who are mad about the budget, and that's bad. But you'd also have a lot of people angry if we lost a bunch of elections and the Democrats were able to hold on to the House and Senate. That would be bad. That would be bad. It's a tough call. And I'm not sure that I'm perfectly right on it. I'll be the first to tell you. It's now 51 past the hour of 4 o'clock. All right, let's talk about the spring savings sale that is starting today. That's right, today at DT McCall's. This is your opportunity to save big money on appliances, on a furniture. Do you need a mower? Do you need what do you need for your house? Honestly, probably you're going to find it on sale. The sale starts now, goes through the 30th of March, so you need to take action pretty quickly. 5 convenient locations: Carthage, Lafayette, Lebanon, Cookeville, Franklin. There's a DT McCall store likely very near to you, and you need to take advantage of it. Go and find out what is available. Find out what they can do for you, and get your purchase made while you can save some big money. It's a company that's been around for more than 100 years. They have a reputation for dealing forthrightly with people, being honest with people, and whenever possible, they sell products made and manufactured in the state of Tennessee, meaning that, they're supporting companies in Tennessee, so why not support them? That's what I say. Okay, so listen, 5 convenient locations, and you can find out all about the big sale by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Good evening. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got cloudy conditions, 71 degrees on Music Row, a traffic report, and a complete weather forecast are coming up in a few moments. Metro Police confirmed the body of Riley Strain was recovered this morning, 2 weeks to the day he went missing after a night with his fraternity in downtown Nashville. The young man's body was located by barge workers in the Cumberland River, 8 miles west of his last known location. Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake told reporters at the scene earlier today there is no foul play-related trauma on the remains, and it just appears the 22-year-old accidentally fell into the river.
There's no other evidence that suggests anything other than we have reports that normally under these circumstances with his height and weight that he could have surfaced between 14 and 20 days. This is the 14th day, so we were really expecting anytime soon to find him.
Strain was last seen on surveillance video in various downtown locations in Nashville after being asked to leave Luke Bryan's nightclub the night of March 8th. As an aside, the family of Riley Strain is speaking at a press conference right this moment, and we hope to have excerpts from that as we continue here this evening. An attack on a concert hall and shopping complex in Moscow has claimed the lives of at least 40 people. Russia's foreign ministry is calling it a terrorist attack. Patrick Revel, he has the latest from ABC's Foreign Desk.
Multiple heavily armed gunmen opened fire at one of Moscow's largest malls while people were packed inside for a concert. Video circulating online shows at least 3 gunmen firing assault rifles into crowds, hundreds of people fleeing. A huge fire then engulfed the building. Russian authorities confirming at least 40 people have been killed and 100 injured so far. This attack comes just 2 weeks after the US State Department issued an unusual warning that extremists could target concerts in Moscow.
In our nation's capital, a motion to remove Mike Johnson as House Speaker was introduced today by Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene after a $1.2 trillion spending package to avoid a partial government shutdown did indeed pass the House. Tennessee's 5th District Congressman Andy Ogles, he told WTN's Nashville's Morning News this morning he's not a fan of that bill.
This is a monstrosity. It's an abomination. And quite frankly, everybody should be offended by it. If you have an ounce of conservatism in your bone, if you love the republic, you should be offended by this piece of legislation.
Johnson did get the bill to pass despite the objections of most Republicans and about 2 dozen Democrats. The bill now heads to the Senate. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. Man, I'm telling you, it is an incredibly busy news day. And on top of all that, this hour we'll do round 2 of Phone Your FARB Friday. So pay attention to all the stories, and if you got something you want to say about them, 615-737-9986. We'll go to that at after the news at the bottom of the hour, 5:35, our round 2 of Phone Your FARB Friday. Let me just do this very quickly. We have a lot of breaking news. In case you're just getting into your car, and that happens, people get into their car. They've been busy all day. They don't know what's going on. Let me just go through some of the really amazing breaking stories that we have here today. Let's see. We'll start with Kate Middleton has cancer. That's right, and is undergoing chemo. She made an announcement today. We'll talk about that a little bit later. An organized attack against a concert venue in Moscow has claimed the lives of at least 40 people and 100 people injured. It was at least 3 gunmen. Some say 4, maybe 5. We don't know for sure. A lot of chaos, as you might imagine. That was followed by explosions, and then the building caught on fire. And in Moscow, they're calling it a terrorist attack. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, a motion filed against him today that could begin the process of kicking him out of office and beginning that search. It's not imminent, but it is now at least officially begun. This after he pushed through a $1.2 trillion budget that he got more Democrat votes than Republican votes. So that is going on today. And, of course, you heard in our newscast, the body of Riley Strain has been recovered from the Cumberland River. Initially, no thoughts of foul play, but the investigation continues. Now this, our 2020 update. A lot of stuff to go over here. And stay tuned, because in a moment I'm going to reveal a soundbite from Frank Luntz that I think is probably one of the smartest things I've heard in a long time, and I hadn't considered it this way. Frank Luntz, a guy who understands politics and works with conservatives a lot of times to help find the right language to sell their ideas. He's a very smart guy. Wait till you hear this. But let me start with some numbers. First of all, the polling data that are out now indicates that Trump is leading Biden and third-party candidates in 6 key swing states. This is what you really need to look at. I mean, sure, the popular vote numbers are interesting, but not really, because you know that some states are going to go blue, and you know that some states are going to go red. Where you really fight the fight in a national election is the purple states, the states that are called battleground states, which can go one way or the other. So very quickly, looking at the latest round of polling that has come out from the Hill and Emerson, Arizona, Trump leads by 8 over Biden, RFK, Stein, and West. Georgia, he leads by 7. In Nevada, he leads by 5. I've got other numbers here as well that just came out today. These are CNN numbers, the newest numbers. Listen to this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is huge. And by the way, there are other polling entities that have found similar things in the state of Michigan. Now, what have I told you about Michigan? Michigan is where it's really going to come down to it in this election. If Trump wins Michigan, it pretty much is game over for Joe Biden. I don't find many ways that he can get to 270 Electoral College votes without winning Michigan. CNN, you ready? Pay attention. This is important. CNN has Michigan, Trump up by 8. That is outside the margin of error. Pennsylvania is a tighter question. It always has been. They say if it's just Trump versus Biden, it's a tie. If you throw in the other candidates, Trump wins by 2. But he doesn't need Pennsylvania if Trump doesn't need Pennsylvania if he wins Michigan. So that's pretty interesting stuff. In the last few days, I mean, literally, he's leading in all the battleground states, and some are outside the margin of error. Some are right at the margin of error. Some are right outside the margin of error. But this is all positive stuff. And you know what? The other thing that I like about these numbers is that it establishes a continual trend. The trend is Trump up, Biden down. And it has to do a lot with a whole lot of different reasons. Harry Enton, this guy over at CNN, he keeps talking about, and he's right. He's right about this, even if he is over at CNN. He's talking about how Biden is losing voters of color.
Back in 2020, according to the exit poll, Joe Biden won voters of color in Michigan by 62 points. Look at that advantage today. It has been sliced by a third, only 21 points. That's Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump among voters of color. This decline in support for Joe Biden among voters of color in Michigan is something we've been seeing in state after state after state and nationally as well, where he's got some big problems. This is a historic low amount of support for a Democratic presidential candidate among voters of color, and it seems to be happening across the board.
That's right. Hispanic voters and black voters moving into the Trump column in a bigger way. And again, it's not just one flash poll. This is a trend line that's been developing over time. Not one poll, many polls, and the trend line is undeniable. That's really important stuff. So I think that's pretty important to look at. And then this from Frank Luntz. Now, Frank Luntz he's a conservative guy. He works with conservatives on getting their language right. He's been around Washington for a long time. I know Frank pretty well. I don't know that he's a big Trump supporter, but he had this observation on CNN, and it was, he's sort of, remember, when you're listening to CNN, they're sending up the flare for Democrat voters. That things are not going so well in Biden world. And Luntz points to this whole effort by Letitia James to strip Donald Trump of his properties after that sham of a trial in New York State. And he says, you know what? You go ahead and do that. You go ahead and try to take his properties, and it will not end well for you, Democrats.
I want you to remember this moment, and don't forget it. If the New York Attorney General starts to take his homes away, starts to seize his assets, it's all going to be on camera. Pundits are going to sit there and scream about this. This man cannot be elected. You're going to create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and you're going to elect Donald Trump. If they take his stuff, he's going to say that this is proof that the federal government and the establishment and the swamp in Washington and all the politicians across the country and the attorneys generals and all of this, that this is a conspiracy to deny him the presidency. He's going to go up in the polls just like he went up every single time they indicted him. The indictment, let's not talk about whether it's justified or not, but it will prove the things that he's saying on the campaign trail, and he will go up, and it may just elect him president. Do not forget that. And I say this to the Attorney General right now. If you play politics on this, this is what the secretaries of state did in Colorado and what they did in, I believe it was Maine. His numbers went up in both states. I don't understand. I'm almost speechless in how pathetic the opposition to Trump has been and how completely misguided. And this is a perfect example of it.
I think he's right. Now, I'm not sure where Frank Luntz is on Trump, but I think he makes a good point. Every time a lawsuit has been brought, Trump's numbers have gone up, not down. Every time they raid Mar-a-Lago, his numbers go up, not down. And you're right. If they try to padlock, the properties, if they try to take over, it's going to be on national TV. It's going to happen in real time. And Letitia James, the Attorney General, may sit there and smirk and declare victory. But you know what? If that happens, it's going to anger a lot of people who think that this whole thing is unfair. And I think it's unfair. I think the trial is unfair. He said put the merits aside. I can't put the merits aside because I don't think there was any merit to the lawsuit, and I don't think there's anything other than an attorney general who campaigned on the fact and said we're going to put Donald Trump behind bars, or we're going to get Donald Trump. And you got a Judge Ingrid, who is her happy partner in crime in that effort. It's a slanted judge who just seems to almost be gleeful in his disdain for Donald Trump. And that's not going to sit well with American people. American people are going to say, oh my gosh, it really is a conspiracy. And people in America, they like a fair sense of play. They are very. It's very important to them that things are done on a fairly basis. And when it looks like the system is slanted and it looks like everything's been tilted one way, it's not going to play well with a great number of Americans, including quite a few who are in that mushy middle that you got to get to bring over and win a national election. It's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them if they continue to do it. Now, all that said, I want to point your attention in the direction of a story that is it's written, and I put it in yourfarb.com, written by a guy who does some interesting commentary, and his name is Paul. He just identifies his name as Paul, but you know what he speaks is not wrong. Here we go. As you've certainly almost been hearing, Monday is sort of a D-Day for Donald Trump in the civil case brought against him by New York's Attorney General Letitia James. Here's what's really going on and what's likely to happen. As of Monday, a 30-day stay imposed by the court expires. At that point, James's office can begin the proceedings to seize Trump's properties. The operative term there is begin, because it's going to be a process. Now, there are two primary ways to enforce a judgment in a case like Trump's. They are not mutually exclusive. Both can be employed until the judgment amount is achieved, but here they are. First, James' office can go after Trump's bank accounts. James will have to initially restrain Trump's account so that activity there ceases. Then James will then have to execute, meaning start withdrawals. Some nuance to it all. Trump will likely be able to continue to do business, which only makes sense. Why stop a target from making money when you're trying to take money from him? So that probably would be an argument that would win. The second method would be to take Trump's property. This is indeed done in civil cases, but it can be enormously complicated. And the more encumbered the property, the more complicated this is. In New York State, the method is actually a version of foreclosure. But in a foreclosure, others who have a claim on the property get to have their say, so are there other liens on the property? Almost certainly, and probably mortgages as well. The state will have to honor those. Further, what about the tenants of, for example, Trump Tower? Will they consent to having Letitia James in the state of New York as a landlord? This, too, could gum up the process. The bottom line is that it will all take time, and in fact, could take a lot of time. Meanwhile, Trump's appeal is being, quote-unquote, perfected, meaning that it's going up to the appeals court. But the danger for Trump is if he's forced to fire sale his buildings and later wins the appeal. At that point, he wins the appeal. They've already taken his property. His property is gone. How do you get it back when you sold it and were forced to sell it at fire sale prices? It's really unfair. It's so unfair. But here's also a little bit of good news for Donald Trump. Very quickly, his Truth Social has gone public, and it went on public today, and they're beginning that process, and he stands to reap from that process $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion is his take home from that. He won't get it right away, but he's certainly going to get it. And when that happens, he will have the money. The question is, how long does it take for him to reap that? Some have said as long as 6 months. So there are a lot of question marks here, but I keep coming back to what Frank Luntz says. If you decide to do this, the American people will take note, and they will take it out on Democrats in the coming election. I think he's right about that. 21 past the hour of 5 o'clock. Let me tell you about the folks over at Beacon Capital Management. Good people. They're having an annual shred day right after the tax day. You know, you got some of these documents just laying around, and you don't want to just throw them in the trash. You really want to shred them. Well, on April 20th from 8 to 11, join Beacon Capital Management in the parking lot and bring anything you need to shred. They'll just shred the crap out of it. There won't be anything left. And that's a good way to take care of sensitive documents. You may want to discover your retirement saving potential in less than 30 seconds with Beacon Capital Management's free retirement savings calculator. Simple step-by-step calculator is easy to use. You'll get results right away, and you'll find out where you are and where you need to be. And when you find out where you need to be, you probably want to call this number, 615-488-9303. That's a number to Beacon Capital Management. Someone will put you in charge with somebody who can take some information and give you some guidance. You have nothing to lose in that process except for the worry. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at AskBeaconNow.com. It is 26 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on a Friday. Listen, I just want to mention, after the news here with Jay Harper in a moment, we will move to round 2 of Phone Your FARB Friday. Now, listen, there's a lot going on, a tremendous amount of stuff going on. Certainly, some of it has got you riled up, or you have something you want to get off your chest. 615-737-9986 is the number, and we will go to that again right after the news with Jay Harper. Now, Jay is actually in the midst, as I mentioned just a moment ago, we have some new developments in the Riley gang case. His body was recovered from the Cumberland River, 8 miles downriver today. Initially, they were going to do an autopsy today, and the initial results from the medical examiner called to the scene is no obvious signs of foul play. But Jay there's been another press conference in the last few minutes, and he's working on that sound now. he'll have that in the newscast here just a short few minutes away.
That's right. That's right, Brian. And in fact, the young man's mother, father, stepfather all did speak, and we will hear just some heartbreaking comments from the mom. It's it's very, very sad.
All right, so that's coming up here in just a few moments. As we mentioned, we got this thing in Moscow. It's tragic. 40 people dead, 100 people injured. A fire, explosion, and sort of coordinated attack against a concert venue in a suburb just north and west of Moscow. We're still trying to get details on that. Kate Middleton has cancer.
It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space, and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery.
Well, good thoughts that direction. Of course, American people have a close affinity with the British people and have fascination with the royal family. And this is, you might imagine, in Britain is huge news. You've got a king who is going through some form of cancer treatment. And now you have Kate Middleton, the wife of the future king, who's going through some kind of cancer treatment. And, this is pretty big stuff across the pond in Great Britain. So good thoughts in that direction. Now, again, coming up after the news, and we've got a lot of news to cover here, we'll do Phone Your FARB Friday, so get ready, 615-737-9986. It's 5:30 on Super Talk.
Good evening. It is 5:30 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds and 65 degrees on Music Row, and there are showers in the area of Middle Tennessee. The latest traffic report and the weekend weather forecast in 5 minutes. Here in Nashville, missing Missouri student Riley Strain's family held a press conference just minutes ago, speaking for the first time since his body was discovered in the Cumberland River. The officials confirmed Strain's body was found in the river this morning after receiving a call from a worker who spotted Strain in the water near the Nations neighborhood in West Nashville. Strain's mother, Michelle Whited, was one of Riley's family to speak at the press conference.
I just want to reiterate how thankful we are for everyone and how much we appreciate everyone's support and love and prayers, because we feel them. We have felt every one of them, every single one. I just ask that you mamas out there hug your babies tight tonight, please. Please, for me, just hug your babies tight tonight. And again, thank you. Thank you for sharing our story.
Strain was only 22 years of age. Russia's foreign ministry is calling a mass shooting at a concert hall that's killed at least 40 people a terror attack. ABC's Andy Field has the reaction on the events from the Biden administration.
Reaction at the White House?
The images are just horrible.
National Security spokesman John Kirby unable to offer more information on who might be behind the Moscow mass shooting, but warning all Americans there
to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that.
John Kirby reminding the world that Russia has inflicted unprovoked deadly force on Ukraine for more than 2 years.
Thus far, 40 people have been confirmed dead, with over 100 injured. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
All right, I want you to be honest with me. Are you happy with your weight? I was decidedly not happy with mine. And I started regaining a lot of the weight that I lost last year and decided to do something about it. Now, I've never taken on a weight loss client before, but I'm impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon have developed for me personally. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took a look at my history and my lifestyle, suggested an approach that is starting to show real results. And amazingly, this is huge. I'm not hungry. I'm not feeling hunger pains. Now, that's a big deal for me. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are thrilled with the results. We both noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Here's the number, 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com. 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Guess what? It's Friday. You know what we do at Friday about this time? We've already had one round, and those people were pretty good. But I have a feeling that the 5 o'clock hour folks are going to be even stronger. It's not really a competition. But, bring your best game there, 5 o'clock folks. They set a pretty high bar. It's time for Phone Your FARB Friday. That's right, 615-737-9986. What's on your mind? You got a bee in your bonnet, got a burr in your saddle, got a bug in a place you shouldn't have a bug. Climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. We have a full board already, so we're not going to waste a lot of time getting to it. When you go through some of these calls, then we'll be able to take some more new calls coming in. I'm going to start with line 3, if I could, please. Jerry. You were the first to call in. What's on your mind today, Jerry?
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Doing well.
All right. Last segment, you hit on something really good with the bloated voting rolls. I wanted to make a comment about that.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if all your callers remember this, but if not, I'm going to try to enlighten you guys to keep an eye out for this. During COVID, if you think back, in Italy, when people were dying like crazy because they have an aging population and very low replacement rates. Mm-hmm. So what was going on was the Chinese were sending workers over to North Italy, Milan, where they're famous for their leather craftsmen. Each part of Italy is famous for a different type of craft, woodcraft, leather. And what was going on was they couldn't figure out why the numbers were so low on the tax revenue. Well, guess what was going on? The Chinese were dying of COVID, the workers in northern Italy, and instead of bringing new workers in with new paperwork, they were bringing new workers in and giving them the IDs from the dead people who they were just taking in the woods and burying them, the Chinese supervisors. So
I have to ask, and it's not that I doubt you, but I've not ever heard this anywhere. What is your source on this?
It's in the news. If you Google it, it'll come up.
But what news? Is it a reliable source?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all documented what happened. The Italian government actually got back taxes for millions of dollars from the Chinese government because they figured out what they were doing.
All right.
And it was a big scandal. But that's something you got to look out for here because, like you said, they're not canceling people when they leave states to move to other states in the U.S., and they keep them on. But there's also a tax aspect, too. They're instead of, charging these illegals that are coming in taxes, they could flip them to IDs of dead people and whatnot, and we're losing revenue that way as well.
Well, revenue is the least of my. It's it's a concern, but not my biggest concern about the whole border situation. I'm really concerned about what these people are going to do and changing the voting demographics of this country. Now, you say, okay, well, they're not supposed to vote. Well, I think some of them will try to vote. I just think they will. You can call me crazy, but I think it'll happen. But the other thing is, they're shoving these folks into areas where they were losing population. When you lose population, because like people in California and people in New York, they were leaving by droves. Now you're shoving all these people in there. These new immigrants are going to be counted in the census. That allows them to continue to hold on or maybe even gain seats. And I don't like that. And it also has an impact on how you apportion electoral college votes. And so, that's what their real goal is, power, maintaining power for a very long, long time. Even if they don't vote, they can improve their situation, the Democrats can, by allowing more and more people to come in. Jerry, thanks for the call. How about David from Davidson County? David, you're up next on the drive. What's on your mind there, David?
Yeah, my question is, don't the Texas Guard have the right to use tear gas to disperse a crowd?
Well, I think that has to do with the rules of engagements that have been laid down for the Texas National Guard. I know that the guardsmen were assaulted. You've all seen that video by now. What's just astonishing to me, I just can't believe it, is that, the Border Patrol processed them and sent them on their way, sent them on into the country. I mean, what do you have to do to get sent back to Mexico? And why was that allowed? And listen, I just think it's another example, and a pretty egregious example. And those pictures, when things like that happen, it's bad, okay? But you know what? The American people are seeing that on a loop, and they're seeing it time and time again, and it angers them. This, as sad as that moment was, may be another one of the things that really drive a lot of people over to the Republican side of the equation in this coming election. It's a sad way to get those kind of support, but I think it's happening. I really do. Let's go to line 5. Donnie. Donnie's driving. What's on your mind, Donnie? Donnie? Moving on. John, he's out in Murfreesboro. Hello, John. You're on with Brian now. What's up?
Hi, Brian. I'm stuck in traffic, and it takes me 30 minutes to go 12 miles. But the Daily News Journal and the Tennessean have reported that they're going to change the landscape of Broad and Church Street in Murfreesboro. They're going to uncover Lytle Creek. They're going to put all these condominiums within walking distance of the square. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about growth, and that's great. But the homeless population at Lombard Library and City Hall, and we already have homeless living on Lytle Creek behind everywhere possible. Has anyone thought about why they're putting these houses and apartments next to a homeless shelter and all this situation going on? We need better infrastructure. I mean, it shouldn't take an hour to go 12 to 15 miles in Murfreesboro, and ripping up the major thoroughfare in Murfreesboro is just not common sense. I don't get it. Thank you for listening.
Listen, no, I thank you for making the point, and I don't have the answers to that. I know that in Nashville they're getting ready to do a big referendum on traffic, and they're going to be building some bus lanes, and I'm not at all sure that are they going to build them or are they going to take them away from existing traffic lanes? Somebody needs to explain that to me, and I haven't had a good explanation yet. But one is maybe, okay, I'm not sure it solves your transportation problems. The other, I'm pretty sure will make it worse. But anyway, we'll try to, maybe somebody will have the answer there, and I'll dig a little into it. Thank you, John, for the call. Let's go up to line 1. Tim, Trump lawsuits on your mind today, calling in from Lebanon. What's on your mind, Tim?
Yes, sir. The Trump lawsuit's on my mind. I also wanted to mention I called you back in December, and I made the comment that it's awful odd to me that a president on his first day in office would sign an executive order allowing illegal aliens to be counted in the census. And I made the statement that they're messing with our census, they're messing with the Electoral College, and I'm glad we finally see what that game is.
Yep.
At the time, you said,
you were right.
I never thought of it that way.
You were looking around the corners, and you were right.
Man, but this Trump thing, two things. One, I'm still not clear exactly what crime he is convicted of. I don't understand how inflating the value of your property is a crime if you weren't the one that inflated it. The banks gave him loans for the amounts he asked for what he said the properties were worth, which means they agreed that that was what the property was worth. So if anybody inflated it, it was the banks that financed it and gave him the loans for it, not him. But exactly what law did he break that he's been convicted of that's started all this? I'm unclear as to exactly what it is.
Apparently it's a crime to overstate the value when you apply for a loan. And that's what they're saying. But you're right. The banks have rooms full of people to look at this stuff and make a judgment and say, well, we don't agree with your assessment. Or they can say, I'm sorry, we just can't, given what you've stated here, we can't go for the loan. None of those things happened. They went along with the loan, and the loan got paid back. Nobody was harmed. Listen, I'm telling you, in New York State, people who do business in New York State are looking at this and going, what? What's this all about? This is nuts. And I think a lot of people have said, I'm not going to do any business in New York State. It's going to hurt them long term. But Frank Luntz, did you hear the soundbite with Frank Luntz a little earlier? Oh, my gosh. I'll play it again in the 6 o'clock hour. Frank Luntz has it right. You start taking property away from Donald Trump, and you're going to make people so mad that they are going to move over to Trump even bigger than they are now. Every time something unfair has happened to Donald Trump, it has helped him politically. His numbers have gone up. And, wouldn't it be something if all of the Democrats always overplay always overplay their hand. By overplaying their hand and doing things that the American people think are blatantly unfair, they actually propelled him. Didn't prevent him. They propelled him into the White House. Wouldn't that be rich? All right. Let's go to Stephen and calling in from Franklin. Hello, Stephen. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. Love your show, buddy.
Thank you.
Glad you're here in Tennessee. Get us some insight on the swamp.
Well, I appreciate you.
I heard something on Matt Murphy's show that disturbed me. If JFK takes votes away from Biden.
You mean RFK Jr.?
Yeah, and then the independents take votes maybe from Trump, and nobody gets to 270. Okay, now we got Republicans quitting the Senate. If it gets Democrat controlled, if I heard this right, you correct me, the Senate can appoint a president, and I'll listen.
Well, now you know what I'm gonna have to go back and do my research again. We did this once before, and I must admit that the subtleties of all of that has sort of slipped my memory. But I look at the map right now, and if you look at it, it looks like they're looking at it as if Trump. Well, I mean, right now, if you just say, okay, forget battleground states. If Trump is ahead, award it to Trump. And if Biden's ahead, award it to Biden. Real Clear Politics says that Trump is already at 312. Now, some of these battleground states, I think it'd be premature to award them to Trump. But he's doing really well. So, I don't know. Let me look at that again. And we need to, as we get closer and closer and closer, there'll be all kinds of scenarios that are possible. I don't like to get into the way obscure ones that are not likely to happen. I like to look at what is reality and what is likely to happen on this show. But let me dig into it again. And I don't want to say things until I refresh my memory, because it's been a while. It's been a minute, and I'm an old guy. What can I say? It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I think the 5 o'clock hour did pretty well. I don't know. Maybe
that's a pretty good run.
I mean, the 4 o'clock hour, they were pretty strong. I'm going to call it a tie. Hey, listen, if you want an engagement ring that she'll be proud to wear, only one place to go, Genesis Diamonds. Genesis has cornered the market on all the world-class designers. New York and Los Angeles-based designers are the best of the best, and every store wants them, but not everybody makes the cut. Well, guess what? Genesis makes the cut. They have all the luxury brands that women are asking for. So don't settle. Get her the ring of her dreams, and don't think you'll pay more. Genesis has complete, ready-to-wear designer rings as low as $1,900. And, of course, no jeweler can beat the price of Genesis diamonds. So whether you want a natural diamond or a lab-grown diamond, Genesis has the guaranteed best prices and the highest quality. And only Genesis gives you a 120% diamond upgrade guarantee. Listen, I'm telling you, it's a good deal. You'll never lose money if you want to upgrade, plus free service for life. All this with no commission salespeople, no pressure. So get the deal you deserve on your diamond, Genesis Diamonds, and now with an expanded selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches, all the hard-to-find models. Check them out at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. All right, there are a lot of diagnoses out there and a pill for everything, but not all those diagnoses are accurate, and not all pills are good for you. Listen, when you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, get a second opinion before you make a major decision. Eurofix is the home for second opinions before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis. Why don't you go to Eurofix? It might save your vehicle's life, could save you a lot of money and a lot of hassle. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. Locations, Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. Tell them your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, sent you.
Good evening. It's 6 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're looking at some rain in the area, 64 degrees. Rain to our south is some of it rather heavy, so be careful if you're headed that direction. Traffic and the weekend weather forecast coming up in a few minutes. Here in Nashville, missing Missouri student Riley Strain's family held a press conference within this past hour, speaking for the first time since his body was discovered in the Cumberland River. Officials confirmed Strain's body was found in the Cumberland on this morning around 9 o'clock after receiving a call from a worker who spotted the young man in the water near the Nations neighborhood in West Nashville. Strain's stepfather, Chris Whited, he was one of Riley's family to speak at that press conference.
To the people of Nashville, I can't thank you enough for the support, the love, the encouragement that you've shown myself and my wife and Ryan and Millie. You don't understand how much that meant to us in some of our darkest hours. The hugs, the prayers, the offers. I can't say it enough. Thank you.
Strain was only 22 years of age. A large emergency response currently underway after a school bus reportedly rolled over outside of Austin, Texas. Here's ABC's Alex Stone on what's known thus far.
The bus came to rest badly damaged on the side of the road after reportedly hitting a concrete truck. Hayes Consolidated Independent School District in Texas says it was pre-K students on the bus. They were coming back from a field trip to a zoo. 44 students and 11 adults were on the bus. A number of medical helicopters were called to the scene. Officials say 2 people were killed. Many more were injured.
The White House reacting to today's deadly Moscow mass shooting and had earlier warned Americans in Moscow that it might indeed happen. Here's ABC's Andy Field with the latest from D.C.
The White House still trying to determine who was responsible for the Moscow mass shooting, but says that so far
There is no indication at this time that Ukraine or Ukrainians were involved in the shooting.
National Security spokesman John Kirby pointing to earlier U.S. State Department warnings to Americans to avoid crowded Moscow locations.
Across the pond, Princess Catherine has been diagnosed with cancer. The princess saying in a video that she's in the early stages of preventative chemotherapy treatment. ABC News foreign correspondent Maggie Ruley is in London.
She's been in relatively good health. She's athletic. I think, again, hearing this news, the country is going to need time to process this. Right now, it's really flooring people.
The palace has not revealed what type of cancer the princess is dealing with. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's the fourth hour of the drive on this Friday. The last hour of the week before we call it a weekend. Going to be rainy, it's a lot of rain for the next few hours. But I think the weekend is not going to be horrible. I'm hoping we have some decent weather. I hope you're getting home safely. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a busy news day. There is so much going on. It's like, sometimes I sit down here and, I say, I wonder how I'm going to get through 4 hours. There's just not that much going on. But there are other days when it's like the news is coming in. It's like trying to absorb it all is like trying to get a drink out of a fire hose. It's just too much. And that's one of the days we're having today. Rather than, I like to do things in an organized way. I like to have things that link together and that make some sense and talk about one topic. But I mean, honestly, in order to do justice to these big breaking news stories today, I'm just going to have to sort of bounce all over the place. So please understand, it's just the nature of so much stuff. And as I'm going through, I always take a break during the 5 o'clock hour when we're in the news to look at other things that have happened since I laid out the show. Because I don't want to miss something that has happened while I'm on the air. Sometimes it's difficult to watch what's going on in the world while you're telling people what has already happened in the world. You know what I'm saying? To stay on top of the breaking news. So here we go. Tragedy in a sort of I guess you would call it a suburb of Moscow at a big entertainment venue known as Crocus City Hall. It's not a city hall at all. It's a concert venue. I've been that way for many years. A band known there in Moscow called Picnic. The Picnic was getting ready to play, and then somebody burst in through the front lobby, broke out the glass with gunfire, entered the building, and started firing indiscriminately. There were you see varying reports: 3, 4, 5, at least 3 gunmen in camouflage, dressed in black, and 40 people were killed. And 100 people were injured. Absolute chaos. The situation was really, really ugly. There was an explosion or two, as if bombs had been set off, perhaps. And then there was a fire, which destroyed a great part of the hall. So it is under investigation. It's being called a terror attack. And the latest information, I've got a little story on it here. Let me pull it up. The latest information we have is that, yes, here it is. From FoxNews.com, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack at a large concert hall in the Moscow area that left 40 people dead, 100 people injured. And that's all, really, honestly, all I have. Early on, the folks in Ukraine, President Zelensky, said it wasn't us. And then also in the United States, our intelligence agencies backed them up on that, saying it wasn't them. Now, the United States government, on its own, about 2 weeks ago, had put out a bulletin, a security bulletin for Americans living in Moscow. Now, there are people who go there to do business. There are Americans who work at the various diplomatic installations there in Moscow. And so they put out a bulletin that said that do not go to any large events where there be large groups of people gathered for the next 2 days. And that was 2 weeks ago. They said for the next 2 days, don't go to concerts, don't go to plays, don't go to music events, because we have picked up chatter of a potential terrorist attack inside Moscow. Now, they didn't say who it was, and 2 days passed and nothing happened. But there were apparently, one would imagine, warning signs that they were picking up through intelligence. And when the Americans posted that security briefing, one would imagine maybe they got put on hold, rescheduled. That I don't know. That just seems likely. So that it is a tragic thing. And again, we don't know much, but it's very rare you have these kinds of coordinated paramilitary attacks against civilians anywhere in the world, but especially in that part of the world. It's a rare thing. And again, some initial reporting, I've seen it in 2 places today. ISIS has claimed responsibility. That may or may not be true, but that's at least what is being reported right now. We have, I want to say that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, I got berated by a listener for not getting her title exactly right. I can't keep up with royal titles. I'm an American. I don't care that much, but I know that the American people care about the royal family, and I know that the British people care about the royal family, and she has cancer. That's why all of these stories you've been seeing have been swirling around, about Catherine and this, that, and the other. That is why there's been such interest in that, and now we know why. Here's just a quick soundbite from Catherine, Princess of Wales.
It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who've taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them, and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space, and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery.
All right, so there you have it from Catherine, Princess of Wales. And, again, Americans do seem to have a fascination with the royal family, and it does explain a lot of things that have been swirling around, the rumors, etc. A lot of those rumors turned out to be apparently bad. But here's the truth, and only good thoughts for the royal family. Now closer to home. This story, which I think will grab your attention. President Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, privately met with President Biden on at least 2 occasions and expressed concerns that he could lose the 2024 election, according to a report. This comes out from Time magazine, claiming that Obama met with Biden last June to deliver a warning about his re-election chances. Last June, that's a long time ago. Obama allegedly advised Biden to become more aggressive and make the upcoming presidential race a referendum on Trump. During a private lunch, Obama told Biden his campaign was unstable. Persuading unhappy voters would be a challenge, and defeating Trump would be more difficult than 2020, according to a Democrat briefed on the discussion. While he believed at the time that Biden had taken his advice to heart, Obama allegedly saw little improvement over the next 6 months. This time, Obama's message was more urgent. He expressed concern that the re-election campaign was behind schedule in building out its field operations and bottlenecked by Biden's insistence on relying on an insular group of advisors clustered in the West Wing, this according to the same Democratic insider as reported by Time. Without significant alterations to the presidential campaign, Obama told Biden Trump could sweep all 7 battleground states. That should happen. Should that happen, Trump would essentially be guaranteed a victory. Biden won in 2020 by earning narrow victories in the swing states of Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all of which Trump won in 2026. A recent report from Axios suggests that Obama and Biden have had a long-standing rivalry over their respective accomplishments and policies. The article also suggested that Biden has privately criticized Obama, a claim that White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates, I don't know how he'd be in a position to know, but he denied. We now know that Obama will reportedly join Biden for a virtual rally with activists on Saturday to commemorate the 14th anniversary of the signing of the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare. So, look, I have said, and I think I'm right, that there is only one person who has the clout within the Democrat Party to take the President of the United States, pull him aside, and tell him, Joe, it's not going well. He has told him twice. He's concerned about the campaign, and now we understand that there was a conversation just the other day, we know, between a phone conversation between Obama and Biden. One wonders, has the advice gotten more urgent? I think there's only one person who can tell Joe, you got to get out, and that would be Obama. So, I don't know how it's all going to play out. I have often felt, and I still, back in the back of my heart, believe that Democrats so abhor Donald Trump that they're going to be looking, very closely at Joe Biden when they get to the convention. Could something happen? I would just say this: if it really comes down to a split between Obama and Biden, the Democrat Party is going to follow the advice of the former president and not the current. Just mark my word on that. Obama still runs the Democrat Party, even though he's not president anymore. He's got the power. He's got the contacts. Democrats still adore him. And if he decides to enter the fray and suggest that we need to go a different direction, Joe Biden is just going to get run over. He will have no way to fight that. Just saying. We got a lot more to talk about with regard to what's happening in Congress, and I want to get to that. They passed a budget this morning, and it's not, people don't like it. It keeps the government operating. Republicans don't like it. They're hacked off about it, but some of them voted for it, but more Democrats voted for it than Republicans. And now there's talk that we may need to go through one of those speaker battles again. Oh, Lord. Hold on. I'll give you that right after we get through with this commercial break. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. Do you have standing water in your crawl space, wet basement walls? Do you have a waterproofing problem in your house? You have standing water anywhere, poor drainage, musty odors, or floor joists with wood rot, cracks in basement floors, hardwood floors that are beginning to cup or warp? I'm telling you, you've got a problem, and you need to call the folks at United Structural Systems. Get them to come out and take a look at your situation. Now, look, they're great with structural problems. They're great with waterproofing problems. This is what they do. They are the experts. 25,000 satisfied residential customers. They'll come out. They'll tell you what they can do and how they can make the situation better. And if you decide to go forward, you won't pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. USS, they guarantee their best. Call them at 615-488-7855. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky. Learn more online at USSTN.com.
In the last hour, Riley Strain's family spoke to the media for the first time since the young man's remains were discovered earlier this morning. We'll hear heartbreaking words from Riley's mother. And we'll also have today's closing money news. That's all coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Trying to gather up some last-minute breaking news for you. Earlier today, the House of Representatives passed a $1.2 trillion government spending bill, which averts a government shutdown. It's got to go back to the Senate. I'm trying to figure out where it is in the Senate, but I have not seen any reporting that they have taken the matter up. There is a big problem. If they don't, the government will have to shut down. And so, this is a very controversial matter. Conservatives, and many of them in the state of Tennessee, in the Tennessee delegation, voted against this measure, and they don't like it. Andy Ogles was very vocal about it, for example, saying that, there's stuff in here that I just can't vote for. And as it turns out, the measure passed the House with more Republicans voted against the bill than for it, according to Fox News. 112 GOP lawmakers opposed the bill. 106 voted for it. Those you would consider your basic establishment Republicans, and just 22 Democrats voted for it. So you got more Democrats voting for it than you did Republicans. 286 to 134 was the final vote. Package comprised of 6 appropriation bills that account for roughly 70% of discretionary government spending, and conservatives said it was not a good bill for them. It is difficult, to find compromise in these days. I just want to say this: if the House had voted against the measure and the government had shut down, the Republicans would indeed, in that case, be blamed. Maybe you're okay with that. I'm not so unsure. I'm sort of sure that I wouldn't be upset if indeed the government did shut down, but I'm not sure how it would play with a lot of other people. Conservatives would probably applaud it. Democrats would decry it. And then the question would become, well, what would the moderates do? And I think they would just be pissed off. Oh, man, they don't pay that close attention anyway. What? We're doing this again. Who's responsible for this? I hate the fact that they did that. It irritates them. And that's what you got to look at, I think, in an election, in an election year. Do you want to be blamed? Now, look. The way it's playing right now, I think there's a pretty good chance Republicans can take the House. I think there's a pretty good chance that they can take the Senate. And I think there's an increasingly good chance that we will own the White House. I do. Call me optimistic, but that's the way I feel about it. Do we want to screw that up by shutting down the government and letting this thing play out? We're playing right into the Democrats' hands. And I think they would take full advantage of it. All that said, I'm not happy with this bill either. But you don't have enough control when you only control one body to have the final say. You either shut the government down or you make some compromises that are not perfect. And I don't know how you do it any other way. Those are the two choices. I'll tell you who didn't like it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has said that she wants is beginning the process to get rid of the current Speaker of the House over this, Mike Johnson. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, not a pink slip, not just now, but sooner or later I'm going to pull the plug on this. I'm going to pull the pin on this grenade.
I filed the motion to vacate today, but it's more of a warning and a pink slip. I respect our conference. I paid all my dues to my conference. I'm a member in good standing, and I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority instead of standing with the Democrats.
That's a warning. If it's a warning, if it's a warning, does that mean that you're not going to go through and force this vote?
No, I will. I'm just.
There's nothing that can convince you to back off.
There's not a time limit on this. It doesn't have to be forced and throw the House into chaos. I don't want to put any of our members in a difficult place like we were for 3.5 weeks. We're going to continue our committee work. We're going to continue our investigations. There's a lot of good investigations going that have to be able to proceed, and the American people deserve that. But I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when. But I am saying the clock has started. It's time for our conference to choose a new speaker.
Do you believe, thanks, Congresswoman, do you believe that there are more Republicans who support this push? And ultimately, if this does get filed, it could lead to exactly what you're saying, more chaos, more paralysis. Does the House Republican conference want to move forward with that?
It's filed, but it's not voted on. It only voted on until I call it to the floor for a vote.
All right, so there you have it. Marjorie Taylor Greene pulling the plug on Mike Johnson, who's been Speaker 5 months. Do we need that kind of chaos right now? No, we don't, really, honestly. And here's the thing. If she decides to go forward and push this measure and it comes to a vote, Mike Johnson can afford to lose 2 votes right now. And very soon, next month, that will go down to 1 vote because we have another Republican who's resigning from Congress and going back home. And so the numbers will shift. He'll only have 1 vote he can afford to lose. You know, if she pulls the pin on that grenade, as she said that she will eventually, we're probably going to have to go through a whole nother speaker battle. I think Mike Johnson has done a pretty good job. I like him. I think he's a pretty shrewd negotiator. Do you get everything you want in divided government? No, you never can. So it came down, I think, for a lot of people today to a vote that could lead to the potential shutdown of the government for which Republicans would have been blamed. And in an election year, do you really want that? I don't know. Reasonable people can have a good debate about this one. But that's where we are. It's now 31 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good evening. It is now 6:32. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. 61 degrees, rain in Nashville. The weekend forecast and the latest traffic report are just minutes away. Here in Nashville, missing Missouri student Riley Strain's family held a press conference in the past hour and a half, speaking for the first time since his body was discovered in the Cumberland River this morning. Officials confirmed that Strain's body was found in the river around 9 o'clock after receiving a call from a worker who was spotted, who did in fact spot Strain in the water near the Nations neighborhood in West Nashville. Strain's mother, Michelle Whited, was one of Riley's family to speak at the press conference.
I just want to reiterate how thankful we are for everyone and how much we appreciate everyone's support and love and prayers because we feel them. We have felt every one of them, every single one. I just ask that you mamas out there hug your babies tight tonight, please. Please, for me, just hug your babies tight tonight. And again, thank you. Thank you for sharing our story.
Strain was only 22 years of age. Now with today's closing money news, here's Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks continue to push into record highs. The NASDAQ rose 27 points, closing at a new high, while the Dow snapped a 4-day winning streak, falling 305, and the S&P basically closed flat, down 7. Despite the losses, it was still the market's best week of the year. Maybe Reddit wasn't quite so ready to go public. The social media site retreated in its second day as a publicly traded company. It fell about 8%. Donald Trump is returning to the stock market. Shareholders of Digital World Acquisition Corporation, a publicly traded shell company, okayed a deal to merge with the former president's media business. That would allow Trump Media and Technology Group, which includes Truth Social, to begin trading on the NASDAQ in about a month. It could also provide some much-needed cash to the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, who needs to post a $500 million bond in his New York civil fraud case very soon.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You know, the Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your health care is delivered without the red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Don't you want to just get you the treatment that the doc has in mind for you and not worry about what your insurance company thinks? That's right. Smart Care plans can make it even more affordable. Starting at $69 a month, you get 3 office visits and basic labs for the entire year. Grace Point identifies and treats the root cause of a condition, not just the symptoms, through a comprehensive functional approach. And by usually seeing you the same or the next day, you will be treated at your convenience. How nice is that? Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. They are located on Main Street in Franklin. And here's the number to set up that appointment. 599-6868. That's 615-599-6868. It is 40 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We are, about, just about 22 minutes away from doing this whole thing, wrapping up the week and handing it over to Mark Levin, the great one. I want to talk about the border because you have no doubt seen at this point, and if you haven't, then you're not paying attention. I know you're busy. I'm busy too. But I watch this stuff so you don't have to. You saw that viral video down on the border in El Paso where 4 National Guardsmen from Texas were overrun by about 100 illegal migrants, pushed around, shoved, and sort of they just finally just shoved their way through. And the question is, what happens to those people? And this question was asked at the White House. What should happen to people who do this, who are coming to this country illegally, who, sort of attack and push through a line of National Guardsmen? I don't think you're going to get an answer, but here's what Karine Jean-Pierre had to say.
What does President Biden think should happen to adult men who are assaulting and overpowering U.S. National Guardsmen?
Well, let me just first say we're grateful, and I said this moments ago, to Border Patrol agents for their to quickly work and get the situation under control and apprehend the migrants. So I want to be really clear that everyone who was
what should happen? That was the question. What should happen?
They were able to do their job, even though it's made it more. Even though Republican governor, in particular Governor Abbott, has made it difficult for them. They need more resources. We need more personnel.
Yeah, but what should happen to those
people? We
people?
have to have the backs of our law enforcement on the ground who are dealing with this every day. But Republicans are getting in the way. Republicans in Congress do not want to help. And you have a Governor Abbott, who's politicizing it. That is what's happening. Border Patrol agents did their job, even though the governor's getting in the way of them doing their jobs.
But what should happen? The question was, what should happen to adult males who attack National Guardsmen? And there was no answer. Well, I'll give you the answer. It was reported by Jenny Tare, who's a reporter for the New York Post, who was there when this happened and witnessed this thing firsthand. Those people who blew past the National Guard and pushed and shoved, and I would say assaulted National Guardsmen from the state of Texas, they were allowed to come into the United States. Welcome. Come on in.
Yes, many of these people did get processed by Border Patrol under Title VIII, which is what is typically used for what we know as catch and release. These are people that are mainly released into the country. So this sends the message to people around the world that even if you act like this, you can probably get into the country. And I think they continue to push these boundaries and to see what they can get away with. And here they got away with some really, really scary stuff and, appeared to be assaulting some of the National Guardsmen. It was totally out of control.
It was out of control. And again, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked that question again, what should happen? And she turns it around. She tries to blame Governor Abbott.
Has the president seen that dramatic video of migrants surging past National Guardsmen in Texas and in El Paso?
I mean, look, I have not spoken to the president about that video. What I can say is this. I really, truly believe that's a question for, the Republican governor of Texas, right? This is something that he should address, that he should actually speak to. The president has worked with Congress in the Senate, as I just spoke to, about getting an immigration bill done, making sure that we deal with the border challenges that we see, that we're now seeing, and you have a governor of Texas who has continued to politicize this.
It's just maddening, isn't it? No, we don't have any responsibility here at all. It's the state of Texas that's at fault. The state of Texas is at fault. Well, you know who thinks that the state of Texas is a pretty good partner down there on the border? The man in charge of the Border Patrol. The chief of the Border Patrol is a guy by the name of Jason Owens. And even though he probably, this was a question that was asked of him before that video occurred, he says we've got a lot of help from the folks in Texas.
I'll tell you that, especially in Texas, there's no better partner for the Border Patrol than the Texas Department of Public Safety. We have worked hand in hand with that agency for as long as I've been around, and I don't see that ever stopping. They have always been very good at complementing our mission. They back us up when we're out in the field, and we do for them as well. So whatever the laws are that they're going to be enforcing, our mission remains constant. Their mission remains constant. And at the ground level, I don't see it ever changing, where we're going to be there to work together to make sure that we keep the communities and our country safe.
You know, despite what goes on the federal level and the battle that's going on with the Biden administration about this, law enforcement officers are a brotherhood, and they will take care of each other, and they will help each other. And I think actually Border Patrol agents, they look to their friends in Texas and said, you know, do the things that we can't do, because our hands are tied. I think there's a great deal of respect each organization for the other on the frontline level, the rank and file level. But I want to go back to Jason Owens. He was asked a great question by the folks at CBS News. How do you stop this? And he has the answer. He knows the answer.
What do you need the most to deter people from crossing the Rio Grande illegally, or the desert in Arizona and California illegally?
So everything revolves around being able to deliver a consequence for an action that you don't want a person to commit. So you don't speed because you're afraid of getting pulled over and getting a fine, a ticket. If people know that there's going to be a consequence for breaking the law, they're going to be less likely to do it. The other piece of that is you need the agents out on patrol to be able to enforce that consequence. Those two things together at a basic level are what makes up our border security apparatus.
Well, that's right. There have to be consequences for their bad behavior. And what are the consequences of shoving around some Texas National Guardsmen and breaking through a line that had been set up by the state of Texas? They're allowed to come into the country. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to America. You know, just head north. Oh, you need a ticket? Well, we'll give you that. Need a phone? We'll take care of that. You know, don't worry, everything's great. Welcome to America. That's the consequence. They get exactly what they want. Been trying to get an answer to this for some time. I got to rush this because I'm running out of time. House Republicans are pressing the Biden administration to provide information about a government phone app that allowed immigrants outside the United States to apply for permission to fly into the United States to be screened for admission, to go past the border, come in directly. In a letter sent to President Joe Biden, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas on Friday, that's today, 18 GOP lawmakers demanded information on the advanced travel authorization program that has allowed immigrants, are you ready, from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the United States. As federal representatives and citizens of this great nation, we hold a fundamental duty to ensure that the executive branch is not breaking the very laws it is charged to enforce. This is especially true when it comes to protecting Americans. The letter, led by Representative Randy Weber, R. of Texas, states, "No American should die because you refused to do your duty." That the Biden administration announced that more than a year ago, it would have been up to 30,000 immigrants from such countries in total each month, and immigrants would be required to apply to fly into the United States for inspection, where only then they could be potentially paroled into the country. But there are some reports that the number is not 30,000. The number has gotten somewhere around the neighborhood of 320,000 people admitted last year. DHS provided figures to the Washington Examiner on Friday, revealed that 386,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans had arrived in the U.S. under this process through February of 2024, through February of this year. The letter accuses CBP officials of refusing to provide information on the departure airports used in those countries or the airports of arrival. By some counts, there are 43 different airports in America where the immigrants were flown directly to. We're talking about, it's knocking on the door right now of 400,000. 400,000 people that the Biden administration allowed to fly directly into this country, bypassing the border, inflating the numbers. Those numbers didn't show up at the border at all. They never had to go across the river. They don't show up in the encounter numbers. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. And it's not the state of Texas's fault. God bless the state of Texas for doing what they're doing. It's now 51 past the hour. Have any questions about what's going on with your air conditioning or your heater? I mean, I don't know. It's sometimes you need a little of both this time of year. Not working? Call this number, 775-7833. They'll buzz right over your house. The folks at Busy Bee, HVAC and Plumbing, and they'll fix it. They'll get it going. And listen, you want to think about preventative maintenance because that's how you keep your systems running without problems. To do that, you become a member of the Beehive Club. It starts at $99, and for that, you'll get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing, no overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Again, that number, 615-775-7833. You can learn more online at busybeehvac.com.